everyone on the call, please remember, feel free to chat. Chatting is encouraged. If you type in the chat box, and if it's something I can filter through to Jess during the call, yes, I do prohibit anyone from reading the chat, but they love for you to be a part of it. So if you've got questions, quirky questions, anything, please feel free to input. And thank you so much for joining us on this momentous day. I think there's a big, gigantic elephant in the room. Me being in the UK, when I scheduled this call, I had forgotten that it's quite a big day over there right now. And literally, most Americans are like standing in front of the screen, biting their nails. Whatever side you're on, everyone's a nervous wreck. So yes, the distraction. Well, the fact that you guys thought to join this call, we will definitely make it worth your while. Now, let me preface with, we had Jess on this call ages and ages and ages ago, before you started Audiobook Empire. And I do have to say, my 2 interactions with Jess since the first call, first, and I'll get to this later, this is a lot of what I want to talk to you about. You had reached out to me after the call and you were like, business wise, you can, and I heard the word business and I think I panicked. Every like flaky artist tendency in my brain went, no, it's not a business. I'm just getting on Cup of Joe and chatting with people. I'm not actually doing anything. But I've watched you over the years and I really, really admire this steel backbone you have, your business acumen, and the way you'd still do it with heart and soul. And you're one of the few people, because normally I have an opinion about people that err on the side of business over art, but you don't. You manage to meld the two. And there's something very, very special about that. I mean, it's literally like a magic power. I mean, there's something that you don't see in many people. I mean, a lot of people handle business and heart and soul equally well, but not at the same time. Do you see what I'm saying? They can take care of their business and then they take care of their interactions. But there's something, and I think I can see it in every brick and stone you've used to build Audiobook Empire.
Stop, you're gonna make me cry. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that comes across, because I mean, to me, it's not about business or art. It's just about people. And if that comes across like that, you're right. That's been in every single decision I've ever made. Is this good for my narrators? Is this good for my authors? And then eventually I got around to saying, well, is this good for me? It took me a little too long to factor myself into some things, but
but that brings me to Audiobook Empire, strangely, but it really does have a connection, I swear to you. So how did you, from when we talked, get to Audiobook Empire? I remember when you reached out and emailed me and you had the seed of the idea, and I've never actually done a book with you guys yet. I need to do a book with Audiobook Empire, Jess.
yeah.
Where can we find your auditions and everything?
So if you're in the Legion, if you're on our roster, then we post our auditions to audiobookempire.com/casting. And we also post them in our Facebook group and mailing list. But yeah, actually, so the last time I was here, the Empire already had been started. It was just very new.
No, it hadn't. No, because you sent me the email after we had our call. I remember very clearly. You were doing reviewing and stuff. It was a long time ago.
I think so. We met at APAC for the first time, right?
No, we met at APAC after you'd already done your call. You'd done your call ages ago. Seriously, it was like a long time ago.
Because I didn't go to. I remember I emailed you the first time to ask you if you would join the roster just as soon as because I didn't, maybe it hadn't officially launched yet or something, because I started it several months before. I started it in like August of 2019.
I think
and then
actually it was like you emailed me like maybe a month or two after you and I had the call, the
Okay.
interview. And
Okay, yeah.
I think that's how
But
you knew me.
I think technically we didn't meet, but like I first saw your name. This is going way back and my memory is not great, but
We're acting like we're like 90
and
years old. That's
right, yeah, we're the
back in
Golden
the
Girls.
old days.
But I think the first time I saw your name, and this might be what's confusing me, an author of yours, I want to say, I don't ask me what book, but an author of yours hired me for my marketing services.
Oh, that might have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
And so whenever I was starting the empire, I just kind of, you know, they say start where you are with what you have.
yeah.
And so I was going back through, you know, my marketing website, looking at all of the narrators that I had either met through that or had some form of connection to. But I think that was when I like was first exposed to your work.
How did you get the idea? Were you sitting there like cooking up a microwave meal going audiobook empire? Or how did it occur to you?
Oh gosh, it feels like forever ago. I mean, I had been operating at that point in the audiobook industry, you know, as a promotional specialist for several years.
Yeah.
So I was running in circles with narrators and authors, and I was noticing that a lot of my author clients were having trouble marketing their audiobooks because just different reasons. Like I was noticing the same like pitfalls over
Mm.
and over again. Like, you know, maybe the cover was homemade or the sound quality of the narration was not great. Maybe the author recorded it themselves. And, you know, it's done. The audiobook is complete. And now they're coming to me to help, you know, hire me to help it sell. Um, but you know, if it sounds like the author recorded it on their iPhone in their bathroom, I can only do so much. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's like slapping paint on an old rusted old car. You know,
Yes, yes,
the paint's only
exactly.
going to cover for so long.
Exactly. So, you know, then when the promotion doesn't really do much, the author gets mad at me like I didn't do my job. When I what I want to say is, well, you should have hired a professional narrator. You should have hired a professional cover designer. But again, at that point, it's already done. It's a done deal. They've sunk however much time or money into this. Um, so after having just about enough of that, being blamed for
Yeah.
things that I felt could have easily been um, avoided, you know, mistakes that could have been avoided if they had gotten in touch with me before production took place, I finally decided to do something about it. And an author friend of mine had been telling me that I should start a production company for, I mean, he'd been telling me that for probably 2 or 3 years. And I was, oh, no, no, no. It's, you know, there's already a ton of production companies out there. I don't want to just be another. And that's been my
Mhm.
whole thing. Anybody who knows me personally is like, I'm not going to do something if it's not going to stand out, if it's not going to be able to, you know, distinguish itself, if it's not going to have a very particular niche. Um, so I was like, no, no, there's already so many. I don't know, you know, what I could bring that's not already being brought by someone else. So it was only a matter of time once he planted that seed in my head. And I started to think, okay, well, if I was going to do this, how would I do it my way? And with my
That's really
promotional,
actually that's really really smart there. Can I just bookmark that one comment there? Because
Mhm,
that could apply to anything you're afraid of, because we all tell ourselves like often, oh, I wouldn't do it because of this. And then if we automatically turn around and say, but if I were to do it, how would I do it?
mhm.
So you're tricking yourself into bypassing that part of your brain that vetoes things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just think of it as a thought experiment until it's no longer just a thought
Because
experiment.
now it's too late. You've already come up with the whole business model. You might as
Exactly.
well
And
do it.
yeah, you're already in love with the idea. Um, so yeah, I started thinking like, well, all right, well, if I was to do this, how would I do it? And I was already with my promotional company, I was already operating in the indie sphere, with independent authors.
Can I
And
ask
I
you a
really,
question
Mhm.
about that before I
Sure,
keep interrupting you, but only because these questions come up and I don't want to like later on, I don't want to miss the opportunity.
go ahead.
When you were promoting authors' books in the indie sphere, I always heard that promo's no good for an audiobook unless it's promo for the Kindle, and that the audiobook sales follow that you can't just really promo an audiobook and have decent sales. You can only promo the Kindle.
Well, I've never heard that first part, and uh, audio sales do follow ebook sales. But you absolutely can promote an audiobook by itself. I mean, I made a career out of it for several years. Because the thing is, the reason behind that is you have audio only listeners, a lot of them.
Yeah, that makes sense. I never
Yeah,
understood why they said that audio only follows I thought it was Kindle, but maybe it's ebook.
yeah, I'm sorry, I say Kindle. I shouldn't do that. Ebook sales. Uh, but I mean, I've heard that. I tell authors not to expect, if they've got an ebook that is not selling very well, don't expect your audiobook to come in and save the day. Because I don't think that, if you got an ebook that's selling 2 copies a month, I don't think it's reasonable to expect your audiobook to sell 100 a month. Do you know what I mean?
So what does promo for an audiobook look like? I mean, can someone like hire you and learn how to do promo for an audiobook?
I only produce now. So
How
I'm
would
just
somebody learn how to do promo for an audiobook? Is it
there are
Facebook?
companies out there that do it. We work with the Empire works with several PR companies and promotional specialists. We refer our authors over to them. I fell in love head over heels with production. I prefer it to promotion. Largely in part because I don't get blamed. Audiobook doesn't,
Because you've
sell.
got no control really over promotion, do
Exactly.
you?
Exactly. No, and when you're talking about reviewers and listeners, they're volunteers. You're not paying them. So if they don't do what they say they're going to do, if they don't want to listen to the book, if they listen to the book and don't like it, if they listen to the book, like it, but don't review it, all of that is out of their control. I much prefer working with professionals who have skin in the game. You guys, you're getting paid to show up and do your job. You're not amateurs. You've done this probably more than me, in a lot of cases. So we've got that like professional understanding there, and that's just something you don't necessarily have with volunteers, and they can kind of be wild cards when it comes to that. And I don't know, maybe I'm radical. I just don't like being blamed for stuff that's out of my control.
It's just I don't read my reviews, so that's
That's smart.
okay. So now I'm going to swing you back to where we were before I rudely interrupted you and took you off. So you're telling us how you came up with Audiobook Empire, how that idea, that whole concept.
Yeah, so I mean, it was basically that I wanted to uh, get my hands more in in the dough, not just be, slicing the bread. I wanted to be kneading the dough and really guiding authors through the process more from the beginning. Yeah, yeah, see Jonathan, he's doing a kneading motion with his hands. Um, but yeah, so I wanted to have more control, I guess, over the quality of the products I was working with. I wanted to be working with professional people. And to begin with, I was like, oh, I want to do both. I want to produce and promote. And within my first year of production, I realized that I can't do that. Not to the degree of quality that I wanted for both of them. It was like I was able to give 50% to each. You know what I mean?
Because it's a
And
they're both huge jobs, aren't they?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, it became apparent really quickly that my heart was in production. So, yeah, and I started reaching out to narrators that I knew. Um,
But you've already come up with now. How did you come up with Audiobook Empire?
it was a name that was already in existence. So I had this friend, Casey, he had a blog um, back when even before I was a promotional specialist, when I was a reviewer, and I had a blog reviewing audiobooks. I met Casey. He had a blog called Audiobook Empire, where he would review audiobooks as well. And around the time that I was, wanting to start a production company, he was closing down his blog.
Oh, okay.
And it just, I mean, I kind of woke up with the idea one day to, um, make him an offer for the name. And he ended up just giving it to me.
Because
Um,
it flows so well.
well,
It's
thank you.
very clever. I looked at the website and the concept is extremely clever, and
Thank you.
the website's extremely professionally made, and your interaction with narrators, you have a stellar reputation,
Thank
and
you.
writers love you, narrators love you. You've obviously put a lot of work into this. So, but what was the learning curve like when you first started
Oh, talk to somebody who worked with me on like one of our first projects.
it?
Oh, it was, I mean, I'm still on it in a way. You know what I mean? I don't think you ever really get off of that learning curve. It's just that it isn't quite so steep anymore. Um, it's funny because my brother just in the last year started a job, like a contracting job, where he manages a team. And he had never done anything like that before and had people under him and had to deal with his team and the client, and be the middle person.
And the
Um,
one that gets the blame all the time.
yeah,
I've done that
yeah.
job.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and so, he'll call me and be complaining about something, and it'll just be like deja vu. Like, oh my God, I remember when I was having to like he's still sort of dealing with the issue of, well, how do you turn your brain off at night? How do you get sleep without like thinking of work all night long? How do you not answer an email at 9 p.m. at night? He said my wife is getting upset with me when I'm like answering work calls in the middle of movies in the evening or something, or dinner. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Set up an autoresponder. It's you have to train yourself. And I mean, it took
Your
me,
audience is narrators. You do know that we sit there with our
yeah,
whoever we live with, promising a movie night, meanwhile working on our phone hidden under a pillow in our lap.
yep, exactly. See, that's the curse of the not just self-employed person, but anyone with a non-traditional job with
Yeah.
non-traditional hours. That's the curse, right? Like people think it's so, oh gosh, people think it's so great. Like all of my 9 to 5 friends think I just sit home in my pajamas all day, which I do. I do actually. Um, but I'm not just loafing around. I'm not just watching Golden Girls all day and eating chips. Well, I'm not
Except you
watching
have
Golden
snuck
Girls all
some
day.
Golden Girls in there because you do know
Yes,
the episodes by heart.
exactly. Yeah. And I mean, the flexibility is a double-edged sword
Yeah.
because we are our own boss.
I have never
Um,
worked so hard in my entire life.
mhm.
And I literally cannot figure out how to find time to take a 30-minute walk. Like,
You have to
I
make yourself.
I know.
You
I
just
know.
have to. I mean, it requires working from home requires more discipline than I think a lot of other
It does.
professions do. And people don't realize that. Um, it took me like 7 years to take weekends and evenings off. I didn't start doing that until like the beginning of 2023, I think, maybe late 2022. But I'm really glad that I did. I'm glad that I did that on my own. That was something that I was like, I really want to be able to enjoy off hours. I want to be able to have them and then enjoy them. And I'm really glad that I did that and really started building up that muscle. I was telling our group on Clubhouse today that it's a muscle that you
It
have
is.
to exercise, and it's painful. Just like when if you've never done regular exercise, and I'm not calling anyone out, I'm calling me out to tell you the truth. But if you've never done regular exercise before and then you start, you can't just do it every day, an hour a day, every day, right from the beginning. You know, you have to work up to it and it hurts. It's
Yeah.
painful.
Because I used to do long, like marathon walks, like my whole life until COVID hit. But when COVID hit, I was like, I am overweight and I don't want to die. And overweight people seem to be, they're saying that they're, the news scared me. So like, I didn't want to go near it. Why should I go near these people get sick? And I can't record if I catch something. But that really did me in because when you have a chronic thing like this, can you say, I'm not really au fait with being able to like say it out loud. Like, I'm like, when you have something around this kind of thing, but I do what you call a push and crash. Whereas the minute you get energy, you do as much as you possibly can
Yep.
because you're afraid you won't get it back again. You have to make up. So then you crash. And if you keep doing that, so I was going to say, because if you've recently started taking full days and time off, the key is to take the time before you need it. But you've
Yes.
been building reserves of energy in your body and your heart and your mind, and you take that into the booth or into your work, into whatever part you are in the industry, and you get more done faster when you build those reserves of
Yeah.
strength and resilience. It's what you said, it's like a muscle. If your energy is like, it's like I think building your energy levels is like building a muscle. And if you let it go for too long, you're depleted. And then you can't do anything. You can barely,
Exactly.
if I take a half-hour walk, I will crash to the point that I won't be able to lift my head off the bed for the next day. So I have to like build the energy, be completely rested, you know. I mean, I can
Yeah.
record
Yeah.
very long hours, but that's not, you've got to do what you've done. Is very smart. Very smart. We think we're being like good hard workers by powering through, but you're not. You're not being smart.
No. No, you're just it's not about the short term only, you know? I mean, it's that whole thing
No.
about like it's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that your career is a marathon, not a sprint. Your life certainly is. Um, and I remember seeing something on Facebook like a couple of years ago that really hit home with me, and I'm not going to get it exactly right, but it was, you can either choose to take time off when it's convenient for you, or your body will eventually choose for you, and it may not be a convenient time.
Yeah.
So that point is out there. Your breaking point is out there. Um, I don't want to find it. I think that
It's hard it's hard having a healthy lifestyle, right?
yeah,
And taking care of your health. And it's hard being sick.
yeah,
Choose your heart.
exactly. Well, it's about balance, right?
Yeah.
That was what in 2023, the beginning of it was January 2023. I always pick like a word of the year
I
to
love
be
that. Do you
my
actually do that? I'm
I
really,
do, yeah.
that's cool. I always
And
thought about that.
my word for 2023 was balance, because I wanted more balance in my life in all areas. So that was, in accordance with that, that was when I started really focusing on, and focus is my word for this year, focusing on having work-life balance. And I'm so glad that I did that before I really had a personal life, before I met my current partner, because he didn't like he still thinks I'm a workaholic, I'm sure, but he didn't know me before I started, consciously trying to have that work-life balance. He probably wouldn't have dated me if he knew
You
me back.
do know that
I
we're
wouldn't have
all
time.
followers of your like amazing love affair because like whenever you see someone become a couple and they're madly in love with each other and there's like pictures of the shining happy smiles and we're like, oh,
I know. I became the stereotype. I
oh, I
know.
love stereotypes. I do. You know, stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason. If they were, nobody would make them a stereotype if they weren't. I love it. And what better kind of stereotype to be than one that's
Oh,
like
yeah.
happy
Yeah.
and in love? Lauren says, new name for choose your own adventure, choose your hard. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I like that. Or what's
Yeah,
the
everything in life is hard. You just have to choose which hard you want to deal with.
what is it they say in the military? Embrace the suck. I think.
Ooh.
Um,
Might need a little context with that one, but okay.
Jonathan says, do you still narrate at all, Jess? Maybe you don't have time.
I've actually never been a narrator.
I know, I didn't remember. I was like, did I miss that? Did I? Yeah, no, because Jess has always been a promoter, but it is like you're a narrator because you've been with us from like the beginning.
Oh, gosh, that's like the
I
nicest
don't know if
thing
it's a
anyone has ever said to
compliment.
me.
We're a
No,
crazy
it
bunch.
is. Oh, thank
You
you.
seem to fit
Yeah,
in.
I'm in all of like the narrator Facebook groups, and people think it all the time, but I promise you, this is the only voice I have. This is the only Southern is the only accent I do. No,
I
that's
think we
not true.
have
I
this
do enjoy my cat.
conversation on the first call, and you were like, no, 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 no.
My voice gives out way too easily. I was literally like Will and I went on a road trip a couple of weeks ago, and I for like an hour and a half I was singing Taylor Swift in the car because I was kind of down, and I try to limit my Swift around him because God bless him, he's got the patience of a saint, but he has occasionally said, "Babe, can we listen to something else?" But I was kind of down, so he was letting me, just listen to her the whole way, and I was singing like just nonstop for an hour and a half, and then when we got there, my throat was sore. Like I could not narrate. I know I couldn't because apparently I just don't have the vocal skills
It's
or the
no,
vocal strength.
that's just the way you use it. And when you
Mm.
narrate, you learn pretty quickly. That's just the way you use it. That's all that is. So,
Hmm.
nothing wrong. You could narrate if you wanted to,
I
but
don't.
it's yeah, if you have to I don't narrating isn't a job that you take if it's not something you really want to do.
Yeah.
Because Sean Pratt has a video, I don't know if you've seen it, where he on YouTube where he tells everyone, okay, so stand in a booth. I can't remember
Hmm.
exactly what he says.
For
And
2 hours and read
yeah,
to yourself.
it's like 8 hours, I think.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, and then see if you still want to become a narrator. So it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
want I prefer to be behind the scenes. I mean, to tell you the truth, just in preparation for this, I had to like walk around my living room for a little bit, and like Will was like pumping me up, and I was like getting all in my extroverted mode because I'm not normally an extrovert. I prefer to be behind the scenes. I'm the water girl. I'm your cheerleader. I'm all the things behind the curtain.
Yeah, see, I couldn't wait to jump in front of anyone. Like I was like, I think as a little girl, we used to have, the family Christmas dinners and Thanksgiving and everything, and you know how kids play dress up. I used to make everyone, we'd get my grandmother's lingerie and I'd make everyone do like showgirl shows and I'd be like stripping at like 7 years old, running around. And
Oh my
everyone had to
God.
sit quietly and watch our show and clap the appropriate amount. So I don't think I could quietly work behind the scenes if I tried, but the thing about it is, you might not like, the stage and everything, but you're quite, you seem extroverted around people.
Yeah, that's what I was telling Will. Or we were talking about that. Like, isn't that funny? But I mean, I said to him, just because you can do something doesn't mean, you prefer to do it. I can do this
Yes.
and I'm enjoying this with
Yes.
you. Please don't think that I'm not, but I don't want to do this every day, all day, every
Yeah.
day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
That's
I
how I
would
am with
much,
business. I'm quite
yeah,
smart with it if I sit and concentrate, but I don't enjoy it.
yeah. Like I'm shaking right now underneath my desk. That's why I keep getting like fidgety.
Oh, well, you're doing a spectacular job.
Oh,
So,
thank
and you
you.
don't look nervous at all. So, okay. So the thing that makes Audiobook Empire different is this connection and this, and I wonder if it's just that you really like us. That
Yeah,
like it's a lot of times it's like you feel nobody means to, but you feel desperate. You know everyone wants you to get work, but you just feel like, oh God, I'm bugging them. 8,000 other people have just bugged them, and now I'm gonna bug them too. But like it's almost like each and every one of us, you just really like us.
I
And we
do.
feel seen.
Oh, good. Yeah, I do. Like, there's this, I don't know if anybody listening is a sports fan, but I grew up in a sports house. And there's this term for a coach that just really vibes with the players versus with like the management. They're hired by the management, but they have to work daily with the players. And it's called a player's coach. And I've always thought of
Yeah.
myself like just the relationships that I have with y'all and how I feel towards you and how y'all seem to feel towards me. I feel like I'm a narrator's producer. And I mean, I'm not saying that like the others aren't. I know plenty of other producers with other companies, big and small, and
Yeah,
they're all just absolutely
I
lovely
can't think of
people.
anyone that isn't great. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
I'm not throwing shade on anyone.
right.
I actually can't think of anyone that's not fabulous. And like Pink Flamingo is another because I love Sarah with like
Hmm.
Sarah's like a queen to me. I just think she's amazing. But to me it's like apples and oranges. They're just
Yeah,
completely different. And yeah, there is something special that you bring to Audiobook Empire. And I just can't. Do you deal with the writers yourself personally as well, or does somebody else on your team do that?
I mean both. It's
Yeah.
usually me. I like to onboard authors. Um, I handle all of like, the legal stuff, the contracts, the setting of the boundaries, which is 50% of my job, I feel like.
So what boundaries can you?
If you've ever worked directly with an author, especially like an indie author in a situation like where it's just you and them, and it's not your first rodeo, then you probably know what I'm talking about. Setting of the boundaries is okay, here's what's going to happen. Here's what you can expect. Here's what I bring to the table. Here's what you bring to the table, AKA, here's what I'm responsible for, and here's what you're
Excuse me.
responsible for. Um, because it's a partnership, right? And because our narrators are contracted to the empire, not directly to the author, there's no go between author and narrator. I'm the buffer there, so that if one party or the other gets mad, they're getting mad at me, not at each other, or gets happy, I guess, or but I like being that middle person so that I can kind of temper expectations,
Do you have an
foster,
upfront conversation with them
yes,
about pickups?
the narrators.
Yeah, about giving acting notes after they receive the audiobook, because that's a big thing for
Oh, you
narrators.
mean the author? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yes. So, yes, that's it's not it's not like a verbal conversation at this point. It was to begin with, but I got tired of having the house rules conversation face to face with authors so much. I don't like confrontation. So I started making packets. So there's like, client information packet for authors that are interested in working with us, but not yet signed on. And then there's a packet, like a welcome to the empire packet for when they've just signed on with us. Here's your next steps. Here's an overview of the process. Here's what to expect at each step along the way, that kind of thing. And there's one for the narrator as well, our Legionnaire guidelines, that kind of tells you what to expect when working with us. Because we have such a big roster and such a wide variety or a wide range of experience with our narrators, we have, narrators who have done 20 audiobooks and then narrators who have done over 1,000.
What do you wish narrators would do differently or would remember not to do? Not naming any narrator, but what small things do you wish you didn't encounter as often as you do?
I mean, I could probably just pull up the packet and they're all in there. My biggest sticking point, and usually my biggest sticking points are things that have almost gotten somebody into hot water, like legal trouble. Like if something gets me almost, I don't know, like sued or almost makes me lose a client, it's immediately gone in the packet.
Like what? Like what?
I was being dramatic about the sued thing, but if it's something that I'm worried might get us sued in the future, we're having a come to Jesus meeting. All right.
What could a narrator do to get someone sued? Sing a song that's copyright?
Well, I mean, that I did just have to tell an author the other day, like, oh, we can't sing. We're not going to do the singing thing. Like, oh, okay. So my biggest sticking point now is, like I just said, I'm the middle person, right? The author and the narrator don't communicate. Just like, see, the whole thing about, I'm sorry, my ADHD is kicking in. I'm jumping all over the place. But the
I'm
thing
following you just fine, so I'm not sure.
The thing that I try to get people to understand about us is we're an indie production company, but we try as much as possible or as much as reasonable to operate like one of the big five, or a bigger publishing house or production company.
Keeps your standards up.
Right, exactly. That it simplifies things. It keeps our level of professionalism up. Yeah, it's just, I think it makes things a lot easier to really streamline things. But just like, if you were doing a book with Penguin Random House, in most cases, I understand there's exceptions to everything, but you're not going to be in communication with the author, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times the author may not even be involved in production. With us, the author is involved to a degree, but they're not in communication with the narrator. We don't allow them to be in communication with the narrator, or vice versa.
Even after the book is out.
Well, at that point, it's no longer our, production's over. So, but that hasn't always been our policy, honestly. We used to be a lot more loosey-goosey about that. But then, things would get us in hot water, things would happen. Like every policy that's in our Legionnaire guidelines document is there because somebody effed up. Sometimes me.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, if the narrator and the author are communicating behind the scenes back and forth directly, and I'm not being looped in on things,
that's a problem.
People get left out because authors might not know that post-production is even a thing. You know what I mean? So they don't know that there's this whole other team of people that, because our narrators don't do post. We have teams for that.
It's like when you're working a duel, you CC everyone on the email. The team, the other narrators, everyone on every email when you're doing a duel. Even if it looks like you're being like, it's too much. They can't have too much information. But if you don't, the minute you don't CC everyone, there's going to be that one name that you both pronounced differently. And you're going to be like a bunch of 5-year-olds in a playground arguing about who got it right and who got it first, because there wasn't an
Yes.
email trail.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And okay. So the only time just to clarify, we have never been almost sued. I need to stop throwing that around. I'm just being dramatic. But the time when I was most concerned or afraid of something like that was when, oh my gosh, there was this author. It's maybe the most mad an author has ever been at me. And I maintain, like, I'm not one to skirt accountability, I'll tell you that right now, but I maintain that this was not my fault. And it's because I wasn't kept in the loop. Um, an author was going behind my back and giving direction to the narrator. The narrator did not let me know that they had been receiving performance direction well after our checkpoint process.
Mm.
And apparently, some of that direction was not followed in the final performance. And the author got mad at me about it, was threatening not to pay for the audiobook. I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on because I'm, scanning my emails. Like, I never even knew about this. What are they talking about? Anyway, easily one of the most frustrating experiences of my life. And that was when the hammer came down. Nope, no communication between author and narrator. I think we, at that point, only like strongly discouraged it. Now, if I find out that it's happening, both of them are gone.
That makes, you know what, I've got to tell you, that makes me, because I have a policy, and I do get a little bit thinking people think I'm a crazy person, but if I work with an indie writer, which I've recently started doing again, if I work with an indie writer, I'm so clear. I'm so clear. I feel sometimes like I'm too clear, and they think I'm a bit
There's no
crazy
such
and I
thing.
put them off. But I say to them, I have 100% happy writers. All my writers are 100% happy when I
Yeah.
submit that book, because it's professionally proofed. So it's highly unlikely that they can find any errors. But most importantly, because at this 15-minute sample, they're 100% happy. Because if they're not 100% happy, I'll redo it, taking their notes into account. If they're still not 100% happy, we part ways. To me, it's
Right.
not a job until after that sample, but they have to say, literally say they're 100% happy. Because in my experience,
In writing, right?
oh, I've never actually asked for it in writing. I mean,
I would get it in writing.
I did get a little bit worried. I did get a little, since I started doing that, I had one instance where I was like, are you sure you want to go forward? Because I felt like you do understand, because the feedback from the sample was very detailed. And when it's that detailed from a 15-minute sample, you're thinking, how are they going to feel if this is an 8-hour book? And they've got that much detail in their mind from the book.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I really loved them. And I thought, I'm going to regret this. So I'm just going to, if it doesn't work out, I'm just going to use it for practice. I literally made the conscious decision. I might not get paid for this work. And I still want to do it because the book itself was a challenge. It was a coaching opportunity for myself. It's not something, I know that's not good business. I know it's not good business, but I'm old enough and ugly enough at this point that I can make that decision occasionally. But so I submitted the book and kind of held my breath and made myself forget about it. And then it was like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, didn't hear anything. And I thought, they've got a lot of changes, but now I've been so strict about I can't take acting notes at this point. It's too late. They're embarrassed to tell me. They got back to me and they said they'd reformatted the book. It didn't affect the narration, but they liked better the way they heard it than the way it had originally been written or something. And they reformatted the paragraphs in it. And it was a really big lesson to me in that, and I think it goes to the, did I get it in writing? It was it was a leap in making myself trust people as well. Because as you said, you put everything in the book because of this time I screwed up. I've learned that lesson. This cannot happen. This cannot, and that's what my welcome pack is. And that's what my conversations are. They're all things that I've learned the hard way not to make exceptions to. But then once I've made that decision, and this was a big lesson to me, I'm not going to, up until this book, I realized I was assuming that because it had happened before, when I didn't know any better, that every writer that wants to give a lot of notes is going to be this. Do you know what I mean? So I think at the point where I make them say now, this happened recently, so it's a lesson recently learned. At the point where I make them say that they trust me 100%, or we don't go forward, I need to then trust them. And I hadn't been doing that.
Yeah.
Because you get burned when you start off narrating. You make so many mistakes, and I think it sounds to me producing as well. You make mistakes and you get burned. So you are always, and I know you joke and you say, I shouldn't have used the word sued, I was being dramatic. But to be honest with you, that kind of thing is always in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that would be extreme. I think it's more likely that somebody would get stiffed. It's only happened to us once early on, but because I work with so many narrators and so many narrators are working with indie authors, whether it's like ACX or elsewhere, it makes me really uncomfortable. This is kind of a side note. It makes me really uncomfortable when a narrator works with an author without a contract in place. Like if it's not through us and if it's not through ACX or somewhere, and they just don't, and we do like this is part of a workshop we do. That makes me really uncomfortable because the saying I use in that workshop is, there's a saying in North Carolina, there's people who have hit a deer with their car, and then there's people who haven't hit a deer with their car yet. So
but we have the ACX contract, don't we?
Yes, but
find a way as well.
But some people work off platform directly.
Oh no, I don't do that.
Right. But see, this isn't your first rodeo, Daniela. We get a lot of really new narrators contacting us, asking for advice. We get them coming to our workshop and things like that. So I try to think like, what is the most important piece of advice? Like I can't give acting advice. I can't give mic technique advice. I'm on the business side of things, working with people who aren't normally coming from a business background or business mindset. What is the most important piece of advice I can give them? And that's get it in writing, have a contract. I'm not saying, I hear what you're saying about trusting people, and I could probably do a bit more of that.
I wouldn't trust them without a contract.
Exactly. My thing is, and this is going to sound so cynical, but my daddy always said, if somebody can screw you over, they just might. Especially when it comes to, we're not talking $200 here. We might be talking 2,000. That's big chunk of money. When that much money is being exchanged, well, I mean, he also said when money's being exchanged at any point, you should have a contract in place like that.
The person that stiffed you, what happened? Their book didn't get put out, did it?
No, it was actually another publisher.
Oh wow.
That had hired us. So yeah.
Not ideal.
No. It wasn't entirely their fault, but I still had to, pay for an audiobook that I didn't have to. I chose to pay the team because it wasn't their fault either. And at the end of the day, I'm the head of the company that they had agreed to work for, and I felt the responsibility to do that. So, but yeah, I mean, going back to that, the most important piece of advice I can give to y'all is just cover your butts,
Yeah.
CYB, CYA, however you want to put it.
I think that's where I'm going from now on. Cover butt isn't the word I initially thought of, but yeah, cover my ass and then make sure things are signed and dotted. You are right, because I've done enough. I kind of know what's coming.
Yeah.
But I think there is a point that I need to then trust the human being.
Yeah.
The human being.
And I
You know
don't
what I mean?
think that, I mean, this is, you're a professional. You're not, again, you're not somebody doing it on your iPhone in your bathroom on a whim. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that it's necessarily skeptical or unreasonable to have contracts in that, in this type of circumstance. And within those contracts, I mean, I'm not just talking about something jotted on a napkin either. Within those contracts, you should have, okay, in the event of XYZ occurring, we will do ABC, you know? If one party or the other fails to uphold their obligation as outlined in this document, what state are you going to go to court in? Like, you have to go down that hypothetical road that you hope to never actually have to go down.
Oh, see,
But
this is why I ran like a deer in the headlights when you put the word business next to the cup of Joe.
no, but like,
yeah, I know it's smart and I know you have to do it, but it feels very much like adulting to me. And every like part of me wants to run. Like
I mean, you're
when
not
it
writing
starts
this
getting.
yourself. And I mean, to be honest with you, most of the time the authors don't even get that far because that's like the last thing in the contract. And I can always tell who actually has read things. You know what I mean? Um, if it wasn't a legal document, I might put like a little coupon code on the very last line of the contract, and hey, you get 10% off your production if you tell me this code. That would be funny, but no, don't do that. But no, like my whole thing too is like, when maybe it's just because I'm in my 30s now and I think about the future a lot more, but
Well, I
I
think
want,
you're smart. I think you're good at this kind of thing. I do think maybe because in the first phone call, I remember you were very, very good at business. It's business, smart business. It's
well,
simple.
thank you. Thank you. I've learned a whole lot even since then, but like, no, I mean, I get that it's scary to current Daniela, but is it something that future Daniela might be grateful that current Daniela did?
You see, current Daniela likes to just say, well, it's ACX, and if they don't pay me, they don't get the book.
Well, no, see, with ACX, you don't need that because they have contracts to cover.
And I don't, I work
Yeah,
within my comfort zone. I very rarely go,
yeah,
I work with publishers, so I don't have to worry about it. You know what I mean? I did have an
yeah.
experience when I very first started with a publisher, production company. And I think it was like 9 months and no money. Yeah, it was awkward. And
Yeah,
then it happened on 2 different books with them. So those were lessons I learned.
yeah, and everybody has stories like that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Maybe not that extreme, 9 months. That's, whew.
Yeah, it was
But
9 months for each book.
but you did eventually get paid there.
Yeah,
So
but
I guess it had a happy ending.
but you are right about future Daniela, because if I was smart up front, because in the end, I had to insist, and there were it was a very bad, uncomfortable situation. It was like I was a bad guy, not understanding,
No, see, I
it's
hate
the
that.
human part gets in the way of business because there's always
Yeah,
like feelings attached. I hate
I hate that
feelings.
people, and myself included, I hate that people feel like they're being the bad guy when they are just advocating for
I was
themselves.
told none of the other narrators had a problem with.
Yeah. I mean, I still, like I said, I hate confrontation. So whenever I have to have a conversation like that, it's nerve-wracking. To this
Yeah.
day, it's better than it used to be because I find comfort in being able to draw from those past experiences. Okay, how did I handle this last time? maybe
Yeah.
I can just, look up that email and copy the wording, or maybe if I tweak the wording a little bit from last time, I'll get a better result or something like that. So, um, I mean, I didn't go to
And you
business
have to be
school,
willing to
but
stand up for
I've run
yourself.
several businesses, and experience is, a better teacher than
Yeah.
Wharton Business School or wherever it could ever be.
And then always trust as well. Trust and be willing to be a bitch.
Yeah,
And
well,
then
be
you have the
willing to
perfect
advocate for
combination.
yourself, I would
Yeah.
say, because if you don't know, who else is gonna? I mean,
Yeah.
if you're on a project with me, I will.
And
But
it's
I take that
easier to
very
work
seriously.
with someone though that that respects themselves and has their stuff together and knows what they're doing and has everything in writing. They're an easier person to work with anyway, aren't they? Because you don't have to take emotional responsibility for
Yeah.
them. They're fine. They handle their own stuff. You handle your stuff. If we all did that, actually saying that, okay, I'm going to let you go, but I have one last question for you.
Okay.
This has been a really good call. I love this. I can't believe I've run out of time and like I still have a million questions, but I'm going to hit you with the big one. For the YouTube audience that's going to be watching this in like 90, 100 years, if you could leave them with one thing, if nothing else, although that hack you gave us earlier in the call, if I were to do this, how would I do it? Is amazing. That's a gold mine. But if you were to leave us with one piece of advice, if they took nothing else away from this call, what would you leave people with? Oh, Lauren says people who don't know what they need to know, the details. Good, exactly, exactly. Okay, so sorry, one piece of it.
Um, I always get really like existential with these things. I don't know
Existential
if you want. I don't know if you
existential
want. Yeah.
is my junk food. Go ahead, I love it.
I always say be kind to yourself. That came up big time in Clubhouse today, given that, it's Super Tuesday, and I'm gonna get out of here and then curl it up into a ball on the couch until, the election results come in and all of that. But I'm allowing myself to do that instead of trying to work some more or trying to go out or something like that. Just
Won't it be weeks though? Won't it be weeks before there are any results?
no, no. I mean, no, hopefully not. Not unless it's like the year 2000 again. That one took forever. But um, by the morning at the very least, I would think. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? I don't understand these things. Who knows
How
what could happen?
exciting.
But um, just yeah, just be kind to yourself, and trust yourself. Daniela, you're talking about trusting your authors. Trust yourself. You got where you are for a reason, and it wasn't by accident. I used to say that I tripped and stumbled into all of this. That is absolutely not the
You didn't
case.
trip and stumble into a single thing, Jess. Everything
Just
you've done has been so meticulously planned and executed. You should be CEO of a major corporation at this point,
oh
seriously.
gosh, I don't know about that. But no, everything was done intentionally. And I'm not a spiritual person, so I get like kind of offended by the idea. I hope I'm not offending anyone by saying this, but I get kind of offended by the idea of somebody like saying like, "Oh, the stars aligned," or it all just kind of fell into place. Absolutely not. That is not how the story of the empire goes. At least in this case, because I laid every single one of those bricks by hand, like you said. Um, and it was just done really intentionally, and I'm proud of it. And I hope that wherever you are in your career, gentle listener, I hope that you take a moment to reflect back on all the hard work that it took just to get this far, and know that you're not even where you're going to be yet. So um, yeah, don't work yourself too hard, please.
saying that, we shall go for, I'm glad we had this call tonight. It was a lovely distraction from the news, and you've reminded me of a few good practices that I've been avoiding doing. So I shall try to take a walk. And we love Jess Herring, and we love Audiobook Empire, and it's stitched together with love and contracts.
Yes. That were not written by me, by the way. Lawyers wrote those. So
yeah. Lawyers
see,
scare me
trust
to death.
yourself, but not to do everything. How about that? How about that piece of advice? You
Yeah,
can't do it all.
exactly.
It's okay to subcontract.
Yeah, that's another good lesson. That's another good lesson. Thank you so much, Jess. This has been
Thank you. This was
divine.
so fun.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Mwah. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Bye.